I think a lot of times people just think there's all these other external things that are really going to define your success, as far as like making sure all you're like you're schmoozing the right people or you're shaking the right hands. And that's definitely part of it, but you can't fake, if your stuff is not, if you don't sound like you've been working on your craft, then all that stuff is going to hit a wall.
Welcome to Audius's Behind the Beats, episode 18. In each episode, we'll be talking to musicians and DJs from all walks of life about their experiences in the music industry. From up-and-coming artists to established industry veterans, we'll be exploring the diverse and fascinating stories of the people behind the music. On today's episode, we're joined by Brooklyn-based producer DJ Great Dane. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be inspired by Behind the Beats. Let's go. What's up, Great Dane? Thank you so much for joining Behind the Beats.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
How are you? How's everything going?
Things are good. I've been really busy recently, so just trying to stay sane and kind of keep my mental stuff good.
Yeah, totally. Whereabouts in the world are you right now?
I'm at home in Brooklyn, so that's
Amazing.
yeah.
Well, we're going to have an amazing chat. And to kick things off, I'd like to do this, what we call a rapid fire round of questions. So are you ready for the rapid fire round?
I'm ready.
All right. Awesome. Let's go. Producing or DJing?
Producing.
Space or Earth?
Ooh, Earth.
Nice. Streaming or vinyl?
I guess vinyl's cooler, I guess. Yeah.
The US electronic scene or the European electronic music scene?
US.
Nice. Hip hop or bass music?
Hip hop.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You're a good sport. I love doing those rapid fire rounds. It kind of just keeps you on your toes and
Yeah.
they're fun. So, look, now I'd just love to just kick things off and talk about your journey. And obviously your name's Great Dane. I love the artist name. You put out incredible music and did some awesome shows. But I think the best way to start is, how did you get into all of this?
Yeah. I'm from California, and I went to school for music. So I went to school for like, more like classical. I actually went to school for voice. So I did a lot of choir and like musical theater growing up. And I was in like an a cappella group in my college. So, mostly just was a singer my whole life. My dad is a piano player. He would, I would learn kind of like, I think in retrospect, I was kind of just learning how to listen really well, but really I never produced anything or touched any sort of electronic music stuff until after college. So I graduated in 2011. So yeah, I'm kind of old. And yeah, I basically just started getting involved in the LA kind of like LA beat scene. So at the time, it was kind of like the early like Flying Lotus days, Hudson Mohawk, Low End Theory. Yeah, Low End Theory was kind of like my start, because I would go to this club called Low End Theory, which doesn't really, I don't think they're doing it anymore. But basically, I would just go every week. And I was like, I started going in college. So I was going when I was like 19, 20, 21. And then by the time I started making my own beats, they had seen me around a little bit. I'd kind of just been like this kid that's, a big fan of the scene. And I started passing out like a USB. I would just give the DJs like my kind of like earliest beats. And then they would start playing them, and I would just go to the club and hear the DJs playing my beats. And that kind of eventually led to me getting to DJ there. And then from then on, I used just kind of like a slow, gradual building of like a career out of that, so.
Wow, that's incredible. Do you remember that first moment when you heard like what your first ever beat being played live?
I don't remember like a specific like one moment, but I remember the feeling of like the first few, like, the first moments, I guess, of like I had a beat called like I'm a Great Dane, I'm a Great Dane, like basically sampling. It was like sampling Lil Wayne, I think. And It might still be on my Bandcamp. I'm not sure, but that was like the first one I started hearing them play like every week, and I was like, damn, that's pretty cool.
You should have like an archive on Audius for all those OG beats from Great Dane. I'm sure all the fans would love it. But that's really sick, man. I love hearing those stories. And so, are you a self-taught music producer?
Pretty much, yeah. I took one music tech class in college, which it was probably 2012 when I took that class. So really early days. Steve Nalepa was the teacher there, and for anyone that's been following Team Supreme, like the crew that I'm a part of, like he was a big part of like our um, he was part of our crew. Most of us were kind of in our 20s, and then we had this like older guy who was like also just like a legit like college professor who was part of the crew. And a lot of the people in the crew took his advanced class, and they credit him kind of for teaching them like most of like the beginnings of like music tech. But to be honest, I just didn't like. I wasn't ready at the time, and I got like a C in the class, and I just like I wouldn't really necessarily credit that class of like me learning production because I kind of just like you know wasn't very good at the time. I just wasn't ready really. Um, but then it kind of like came full circle because like the people that did take that class that really liked it were the ones that kind of started showing me like I would just I started getting invested like into it myself, and then I would just kind of like pester them with questions like, how do you do this, how do you do this, how do you do this? So yeah.
Totally. That's always the way. And I love that you're the whole Team Supreme story, massive, massive fan of that. And we'll get into that later in the show. But it's really cool to hear like your whole uh, journey. You know what I mean? And it is a process, and it's really inspiring for people because you don't always that first beat might not always be the best thing. But like look at a couple years later, and you persist and build your craft. People find that really awesome. I was going to say, growing up, like, did you have any musical inspirations? You mentioned Flying Lotus. I'm a huge fan of Fly Low. Were there any particular artists that inspired you to get into producing and making beats?
Yeah, I mean, all that stuff was like, I was already pretty much post college or like in college. So all my musical influences before that were not electronic music. They were mostly rap. I mean, I was a musical theater kid, so obviously I was like really ingrained in like, I credit like knowing a lot about that stuff. Like my dad's a big musical theater guy, and obviously that's not the coolest answer, but if you like dig deep into like like the history of American musical theater, like it's pretty important as far as music history goes. And I think it was a really cool like upbringing to learn like from the classics, like Hello Dolly level of like music writing, and then also like being obsessed with like Lil Wayne, like when he first came out. So it's like a cool combo of things. But
That's awesome. That's like a total superpower. Because to be able to, a lot of people, I've noticed a correlation that really talented producers like yourself, when they give advice, they often say, listen to a diverse range of music, or like I've studied, lots of different styles of music because it gives you a more, holistic understanding of, the craft of songwriting and production. So yeah, that's really cool to hear that you had a musical theater background. Wow, we get some exclusive alpha here on the show. Anyway, I'd like to fast forward to basically now, and congratulations on the release of your new album. It feels super dynamic and personable. So, can you tell us more about the album?
yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, so the album was basically like it almost took like 2 years to kind of do everything. I mean, I wasn't necessarily thinking about the album like at the very, very beginning, but I was starting to write the first songs like, 2 years before it came out. And it was basically just kind of like a journal of my transition from like moving from California to New York because I went through a big like breakup, and it was just kind of like a huge like release like emotional release for me to just kind of like put it all down on not pen and paper, but you know what I mean, just like kind of like cataloging my emotions. And I think it does a good job. Like my album, it does a good like when I listen back to it, it kind of brings me back to those feelings. And I'm still the album came out it's been almost a year, probably like 6 months or 7 months or something. So I'm kind of like in a new place now, like emotionally and stuff. But that's what's cool about I've tried to do that with all my albums, is just kind of like capture like the moment of like what I'm feeling at that time. And luckily, people have been down to like kind of go on that journey with me, because I think sometimes like my earliest beats were like pretty like just ignorant trap beats, and I could have just kept doing that, but I'm glad that like I kind of early on started to just like flex my more emotional side, and I think it's paid off like over time. So.
Yeah, totally. I that's why I felt it was quite personable. So it's lovely to hear from the authentic source the story behind it. Do you have a favorite song from that album? Maybe there's a really cool or funny story of how it came to being the song that you would like to share.
Um, yeah, I think I like all the songs on that album. Like one of the ones that I keep coming back to is called "Where You Want to Go." It's kind of like,
Yeah,
I don't know, just like really pretty. I played it. I played it Lightning in a Bottle last year, and it was kind of like my
yeah.
closer. And there was this girl on stage who like came up to me afterwards, and she was like sobbing, and she was like, "What is that song?" And I was
Well,
like, "That's what that song does to me too." So I was like very validating to see someone like emotionally like react the same way that I kind of felt about it. Yeah.
oh man. Yeah, those are the best, right? You like someone else is experiencing the song and it's like it's taking on a life of its own. That's kind of the awesome thing about creativity and music. Your album has a really cool title as well. So I was gonna ask you actually, what's the story behind the title?
Yeah. So if you've been following like my other albums, basically like I started with my first album was called Alpha Dog, and that was kind of like my kickoff of my whole like music career. And I kind of just decided like early on, like I'm just gonna do like the whole alphabet. So alpha, beta, gamma, delta, um, and then I guess which one am I? Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, and then epsilon. Yeah, obviously. I'm looking at my merch right now. I have this T-shirt that I made that's like facing me right now. I can see all those covers, like because all the album covers are on the shirt. So yeah, basically each animal is like loosely related to like the concept of the album. So the iguana one. First off, I just wanted to figure out a fun thing to say, or a fun like the reason I chose that was just because it sounded cool, like epsilon iguana, like it kind of like runs into each other, like. And I wanted to do something surprising, like I kind of want to pick animals that are not like on the nose, or like, people always assume, like people are always guessing, like, oh, you got to do like, something. Basically, they always guess like a rhyme, and I'm like, none of these really rhyme, they're just like clever ideas. Like gamma ray was like a stingray, right? So it's like, um, so Epsilon Iguana, I just thought it sounded cool. And then I think like Whoa Now was like kind of like the first one of the big songs I wanted to put on the album, which has a lot of like, you know, um, tropical sound design stuff. So I was just kind of keeping it like a little tropical and stuff. But yeah.
Wow. Do your fans and community kind of help inspire you with the names as well? Is there a bit of back and forth going on?
Yeah, I definitely get a lot of people with ideas. And I take a lot of pride in like, once I kind of know what it is, I kind of like keep it to myself, or like, I'll tell a couple people, but it's like this little secret that I have. And then I'll start working with the artist, Emily, who's done all the covers. And it's like this
Mm.
cool little like back and forth. I'll start to get like, she'll send me pictures of like the early doodles. And it's like, I take a lot of pride in like keeping it under wraps until it's like out. But yeah.
Yeah, and it also keeps people guessing, which is
Yeah.
always part of the fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
I would like to pivot the conversation now because we are talking about it earlier. Like Team Supreme. So I just want to focus on that more because you're involved with them and your whole story, and they're making a comeback. I've been seeing your tweets or X's, whatever. Is it tweet or X now?
We can say tweet. I think.
Yeah, it sounds weird saying X. So yeah, what's your role going to be this time around with Team Supreme? What do you hope to accomplish with this revival?
Yeah, I actually just got off like a call with Preston, who's like the co-founder with me, and we're just talking about that exact thing, because we just want to bring it back in a really like well designed, like in a way that we could kind of keep it going forever, not like, because we've done two or three kind of resurgences, and then we'll just get overwhelmed and be like, all right, we'll take a break for another like 5 years. But like this last one was a pretty big break, but in the meantime, there was like COVID and everything just kind of feels like it got like reset after that. But yeah, we're slowing it down a little bit, so it's like once a month as opposed to once a week. Makes it a little easier for us to handle. Um, Lots of the credit goes to Preston James, who's he's the co-founder. With me and him, like technically we're like the people that technically started it, but obviously all the OGs, like if you go back to like volume one, that's everyone that was involved with like the first one. But yeah, so we're just trying to like slowly roll out like all the stuff that we want to do. So we got the ciphers going already. We definitely want to bring the podcast back. We had the Team Supreme podcast, which was like my favorite thing to do. Like I'm a huge podcast fan. I listen to podcasts all day. Like it's like my guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought it was really cool that we had that. If you like, you can go find it. It's still like I think we had like 15 episodes, and they're still out. They're really cool. The coolest one we did, I think, or we did two of them. Basically, we had like a pass the aux. So we did like a live show, and then we before the show started, we invited producers to come and basically pass the aux around and like play a beat. So we had a list of like 50 producers in the room just playing their beats, which was cool in itself. But then the really cool part is that we recorded the whole thing and put it out as a podcast. So like that's the kind of stuff I want to keep doing, and just like think outside the box of like how to like take this like culture that's like kind of like happening, and putting it into like a digestible form for like the modern TikTok age, like kind of like what we're doing here, so yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, I'm so excited. We're all excited here at Audius because when I think of Team Supreme, it's just so fundamentally, shaped, electronic music beat culture and all of that. So yeah, I'm all for this revival, and we'll be keeping our eyes peeled for this. So
Yeah.
super exciting. Yeah. So I'm going to talk about now Icon Collective because I've heard that you've also been involved with Icon. So what was that like? Working with them. I just think they're incredible at Icon.
Yeah, so when I moved to New York, I actually moved to another school, but I definitely had a lot of fun at Icon. And Preston, the co-founder of Team Supreme, still works at Icon. So Icon's a big part of all the stuff that has led up to this point. I guess I'm not that qualified to speak to current Icon things. I haven't been there for a few years, but I teach at a school in Manhattan called 343 Labs, and they're really awesome. Like that's been kind of like a huge like helpful thing moving to New York and having this school that really treats me well. And they have a lot of the stuff going on that Icon has, but it's like smaller and it's more like New York. So um, yeah, definitely have a lot of love for Icon and for 343 Labs. Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to both of them.
Yeah.
What's the most rewarding thing, like, giving back, as well, and being that teacher, what's the most fulfilling aspect of it?
I love it. I think at this point, early in my career, I would kind of like keep it under wraps a little bit, because it's like, oh, I don't want to be seen as like this teacher. I want to be like this cool like DJ rock star guy. But over time, it's just been like it's almost like it's just who I am. It's what I did throughout my whole life. I have four younger siblings, so I was always kind of like a mentor with them. Um, and then I went to school, like my degree, like I had like a double major, but one of my degrees is music education. So, it's basically what I trained for. And it's definitely the reason why I stayed good over the years. Like if I wasn't teaching, I don't think I would have continued to like hone my skills, because the cool thing about teaching is that you're just like, whether you want to be making music or not, like that's what I'm that's what I got to do today. So like I'll go to the school and like maybe like start my day just kind of like not in a good mood or whatever, and by the time I leave, I'm like, dude, I made like 3 songs today. So and I get to bounce ideas off people all day, so it's great.
No, you're literally transforming the music landscape, and totally been immersed, living and breathing it, I would
Yeah, I
say.
mean, it's
So
better than working at McDonald's, so I'm down.
that's awesome. I find there's a lot of amazing, talented producers and DJs that are also like teaching at these incredible schools, and they're always like so ahead of the curve with like the latest, I don't know, software releases or like the latest plugins because you have to be on top of it all because you're teaching the
Yeah, and
students, and it inspires you. It's like a beautiful, full circle effect, isn't
no,
it?
yeah, and it's cool like having connections because the school, 343 is really tied into like the actual company of Ableton because they're both based in Berlin. So we get a lot of stuff like ahead of time. We'll get like 12, really early. We got 12, and then we'll get like plugins and things like because these people that make the plugins like want us to like show people them. So it's great. Like it's a great job for sure.
Yeah, and shout out Ableton Live,
Yeah,
awesome,
shout out
awesome.
Ableton.
So you're just super busy and talented, doing all these incredible things like performing, making music, teaching, and you're also running a label, ADVC. So what has it been like running your label? Like, what future plans do you have in store?
Yeah, I've been kind of just like you said, like I have a lot going on, and I think sometimes other certain things take a back seat. And the label has been, it's a thing. Like it's basically where I put all my music out, like by default. But I have been kind of just like strategizing on how to make it more like feel like a legit label. Um, but yeah, like I moved distributors last year to this company Nameless. So that was a big thing, just getting all of our back catalog kind of shifted over to a new distributor. But it's cool because it forced me to like take an accounting of like, oh shit, like we actually have a lot of music out already. Like, um, you know, it's been all my albums for the last like 6 or 7 years, and then I've released two EPs with this kid Samson, who's amazing. And then we did Halloween Heaters 1, 2, and 3. Did we do 3? I think we did 3 of them. So that's like 3 compilation albums. So just kind of like looking through when I moved to the new distributor, I was like, oh, that's like hundreds of songs. So
A huge catalog, right? It's
yeah, it's
incredible.
it's big, but it's I've kept it somewhat tight as far as like not trying to overextend myself. Like I get labeled submissions all the time, kind of like emails, but
Right.
I'm hesitant to like take on too much because I don't want to like let people down and be like, it's an independent
Yeah.
thing. It's not like I'm, running some warehouse of like a label. It's like it's literally me basically. So yeah,
No, it's made with love and care, right? And
yeah.
nuance. It's also you running the ship. How do you navigate, putting on the business hat and then the creator hat and going between the two?
I'm not very good at it actually, but this year is like that's like my mission this year is just to like really professionalize everything I have going for me. I've been, you know, I've been talking to somebody in New York who's basically just helping me. Like she's like everything that I want to be. She's basically a self-made like designer, and I'm kind of just learning like, oh, like if you take yourself seriously and treat all of your endeavors like a job, like you can actually see the results. And um, you know, I just feel like I'm an ideas man, Like, what's that? I forgot what that's from. He's like, I'm an ideas man, Michael, or I think it's from the Office or something. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so it's like I have all these ideas, and then sometimes they like go well, like Team Supreme or Great Dane or ADBC or like Hypnothesis or the show in New York, what's it called, Halftime. And it's great. Like I feel like I'm really good at the first part. I'm really good at getting things going, and then it's the more like sustaining them over the like long term as far as like not just like keeping them alive but like actually making them grow. That's the part I have a hard time with, and I'm learning this year how to like just do the boring stuff, make Excel spreadsheets and just like keep track of everything. But
But you know what? Also, Dane, it comes down to physics. Like there's only literally one of you.
that's
I
another
mean, if we
thing, yeah. And I think
digital planes across the world in real time, they could cover all these tasks. Maybe an I don't know. I'm going down the rabbit hole, am I?
well, if I thought more, like if I had more a little bit more of that like Mark Zuckerberg in me, like all the things I've started, I could have like grown and like hired people, like, oh, this guy works with me on this guy works, and then just kind of like kept an accounting of it, paid people to like just help me grow them. But I think I like at my core, I'm like more of an artist. So I'm just like, this is boring. I just want to make a beat, you know? Like,
Uh, And there's a lot of value in what you just said there. And people will listen to this and they'll take away, like focus on what you love and what you're passionate about, what you're good at,
yeah.
because that physics as well. And speaking of what you're amazing at performing, you're currently on tour. How's that going? What's been your favorite shows so far?
It's been really cool. Yeah, so I've been gone basically once a week for the last like 5 weeks. So I'll just leave for a day and then come back to New York. So I just did like Salt Lake City, Denver, Portland, Boise. I think there was one more, and then Detroit's on this week on Friday. But definitely Salt Lake City was incredible. Like the festival, it's called Get Lucky Festival. I didn't know what to
Incredible as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect. I never played that before, but really, really, really popping. Just I think Salt Lake City is really like the place right now for all this like bass music stuff. And then Denver all was amazing too. Denver with Barkley Crenshaw was like crazy. Yeah,
Wow. Oh, I'm sure. What's the craziest thing that you've ever experienced in one of your shows from like a crowd member?
craziest thing. I don't know, man. I've been doing it for so long. Like, sometimes when I look back on like really old videos of like Team Supreme shows, like people were like crowd surfing and shit. Like it was wild. Like,
Wow.
I don't see as much of that anymore. I think it's I don't know something. Not that I'm thinking that we need that, but I'm just saying, like
I've always been more crowd surfing within safety measures.
yeah. No, but those like
No.
old like LA shows where like just I just remember like the sweat and like the low end theory, just like kind of like elbow to elbow, kind of like almost like mosh pit vibes that I'll never forget. Yeah, I mean it's
Yeah.
like I said, I don't really remember. There's too many, but
You're a testament to your shows, man.
yeah.
What is there any particular shows that you're looking forward to that are coming up in the near future?
Yeah, Detroit's gonna be fun. That's on Friday. That's with Barkley Crenshaw. So pretty. I mean, I've only played one show with him so far, but I think all the Barkley Crenshaw dates are I'm expecting to be pretty lit. Um, and then I'm doing this festival called the Astral Project in Tennessee. Um, that'll be cool. And they want me to do like a little beat, like kind of like a beat clinic. So I just got asked to do like kind of like a second event, which I'm really excited about that because I'll go to these festivals sometimes and then I'll see like these like yoga things and like these people talking and I was like I could do that shit. Like I could do like a little beat thing. So I'm stoked they asked me to do that. So I'm excited for that too.
Oh man, yeah, no, I find a lot of these festivals have like those side things, but we don't have enough of what you're doing with the beats and the beat ciphers and all that. So yeah, bring that back.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
all
I'm
for it.
down. I'm super down.
Yeah, I'm super excited. And I mean, you're so busy, but are you making new music and playing that out in these shows at the moment? Any exclusive alpha you can share with the audience fam?
Yeah, no, I mean, I was thinking about I need to drop. I have this like Fergie remix that I've been sitting on for a long time, and I tried putting it on SoundCloud last week. I tried like multiple different little sneaky ways to put it up, but I couldn't do it. So that one's got to go on Audius for sure.
Oh man, that's exciting. We're just like, oh, we need to hear this now.
Yeah,
Now
yeah.
that you mentioned.
I'll send you that for sure. That one, the Fergie remix is cool, and then I just have a bunch of like real like half finished beats that are. Um, I love playing shows because like playing live music, like you get to see what's like not only like what works for my stuff, but also just like what are the other DJs playing. And like usually like yeah, the more shows I'm playing, the more music I'm writing, just because I'm like more inspired. So
Yeah,
lots
for
of half
sure.
finished stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's very exciting. Is there an artist that you've seen recently play live that you're just like, yep, that's inspiring. That's super cool.
um, yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. I saw Chase and Status at Salt Lake
Yeah.
City. That was pretty cool. I didn't really know who they were, but everyone else did. So it was pretty cool to see like just like
Yeah.
that,
Wow.
trying to think.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I love Chase status. Yeah. So speaking about you and moonshots, I like to use the word moonshot, like shooting for the moon, like your kind of roadmap for the next 5 years. What does that look like? And in an ideal world, what would you like to achieve?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I mean, I just have like, what we were talking about before. I have so many things cooking and like so many kind of like little business endeavors that I'm already like in on. So like my goal would just be that like in 5 years, all of those things just are like more legit, like everything that I'm involved with like has a website, has merch, has like a team, you know what I mean? Like, cause right now there's like, Team Supreme, Great Dane, ADBC, and like my show, my Brooklyn show, and then even the school that I work at, 343 Labs. Like it's cool because they're like a smaller place, so we've been strategizing just ways to like for me to help them and like they can help me like basically grow the school because I sometimes I feel like I'm like people are coming to the school like they're attracted to the school because I'm there and I'm like, well, let's figure out ways to like make this make more sense. So I'm not just like this random teacher there. It's like, I would like to like use the school. I have this amazing facility. I have the keys to this fucking awesome spot in Manhattan. And like, they're willing to let me do whatever, any idea that I have. So yeah, basically just legitimize all my business stuff and then also like help the school kind of like grow. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really inspiring because you've got so many projects and you're also literally shaping the future of music and the next gen, really, aren't you? And just casually, right? I hope you have time to sleep as well.
Yeah, that's the
But
problem.
I
The party don't stop.
the party never stops. But you know what? Life's a party. Life's meant to be enjoyed, celebrated. Follow your dreams, follow your passions. And the way I like to kind of end the show is I call it the golden nugget advice, for our audience fam and community. So if it's in terms of music production, the business side of things, performing, or just life hacks in general, what advice can you give to everybody here today?
My advice would just be, put in the hours. I think like literally the hours as far as like producing. I think a lot of times people just think like there's all these other external things that are really going to define your success as far as like making sure all you're schmoozing the right people or you're shaking the right hands. And that's definitely part of it, but you can't fake, if your stuff is not, if you don't sound like you've been working on your craft, then all that stuff is going to hit a wall, right? Like all your, art design and all your like, scheming of how you're going to like become famous or whatever, like it's not going to matter if the music is not there. So I think you got to spend the time just putting in those hours in Ableton or whatever, in Logic, whatever. And a lot of times, I mean, I'm preaching to the choir. If people are watching this, they probably are putting in the hours. So you know but I think the good stuff, the good music will rise to the top over time. So
Yeah, the creme of the crop rises to the top. Yes, I love
yeah.
that advice. Yeah, put in the work. Put in the work. And it's not just that 10,000 hours. That's a lie. It's much more than
Yeah,
that.
kind of, yeah, probably at this point.
Probably. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining Behind the Beats. It's been a pleasure speaking with you,
You too. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
and we're excited about what's next for you.
Me too. Yeah. Thank you. I'm excited for Audius too. I'm definitely going to start putting up, I got to put up a couple things. I already like knew in my head I had to do that, but talking to you, I'm like, okay, I got to do that like soon. So,
We have our eyes and ears peeled.
hell yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks again. That's a wrap for Audius's Behind the Beats. We'll be dropping the social handles and links for demo tapes in the comments and description. Until next time, keep vibing, keep thriving, and keep creating. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you in the next one. Behind the Beats is a production of Audius Music. This episode was hosted by me, Sam McFly, with editing by Julian Blythe and production assistance from Sierra Graves. Our executive producers are Julian Baker and Michael Cullen. Theme music by Caption.